Chapter 2: Understanding the Business Organization, a Multidisciplinary Approach. Aims of the chapter. The aims of this chapter are to explore the multidisciplinary nature of the study of business and management, identify the disciplines that have significantly influenced our understanding of business, organization, and behavior of people, evaluate the contributions made by psychology and anthropology, psychology and economics, assess the stakeholder model of the organization, appreciate the interconnection and conflicts between different disciplinary approaches. Learning outcomes. Why the end of this chapter? And having complete the essential readings and activities, you should be able to discuss the multidisciplinary nature of business and management study. Identify the range of disciplines that have contributed to the subject and which have influenced its development. Explain the different ways in which psychology, anthropology, psychology, and economics treat business, and then link this to the study of business organization. Considered example of how to evaluate the usefulness of the contribution made by these disciplines. Identify and assess the value of the stakeholder model of business. Essential reading. The essential readings for this chapter are taken from the K text Mullins, L.J. Management and Organizational Behavior. Essex Person Education Limited, 2010, Chapter 1, The Nature of Organization Behavior, page 9 to 12, a multidisciplinary approach, and up to including orientation to work and the work ethic, and page 14 to 18, the psychological contract and the changing nature of the psychological contract, Chapter 4, Individual Differences, Chapter 8, The Nature of Work Groups, Chapter 9, Working in Groups and Team. Reading. You are strongly advised that the essential reading should be the focus of study, and that these additional texts, apart from body, which is a more general text, are suggested to deepen your knowledge only if you have the time after fully analyzing the essential reading. Body D. Management, an Introduction, Harlow, Fifth Prentice Hall, 2008, Chapter 15, Motivation, page 489 to 92. Chapter 17, Teams, Doma S. and H. Schreuder. Economic Approaches to Organization, London, Prentice Hall, 2008. Green, K. Management, Psychological Introduction, Cambridge, Blackwell, 1995. Green, K. The Psychology of Work, Cambridge. Polity, 2005, Chapter 3 and 4, Permont R. and J. Scholar, Business Economics, Oxford University Press, 1999, Chapter 4, Wright S. The Anthropology of Organization, London, Routledge, 1994. Chapter 1. Introduction of In Chapter 1, we look at the conceptual foundation for studying business, organization, and management, and the evolution of theory. We have established that it is not a subject with clear boundaries. It is a growing and developing area of study. In this chapter, we try to understand why it's such a complex area of study, with so many different, often competing perspectives. First, we considered how organization, particularly business organization, pervade our lives and significantly affect the way we live. Given this scenario, it is not difficult to see that the subject is of interest to many academic disciplines, in particular the social sciences, psychology, economics, and anthropology, of all which have and are contributing to the development of theory and practice. Also, we see that because of our society is undergoing rapid change, so too does the theory and practice of management and business. Finally, taking this idea even further, we can say that as business and management is of fundamental importance to all members of society, we all individually and in groups have different views on how business organizations are structured and managed. 2.1 A multidisciplinary view of business and management. Activity 2.1 Think of a moment about how organization pervade your own life. Can you think of any significant events that have happened to you that did not involve an organization of some kind? For example, when you were born, how your basic needs were provided for, how you were educated, who looks after your money, how you travel around, and soon. In particular, think about all the business organization you have had dealings with or been a part of during, say, the last week. For example, who you have voted from or sold to. What services have you experienced? We are going to focus in this chapter on psychology, anthropology, the behavioral sciences, and economics, as they will provide a major theoretical foundation for other chapters in the guide. They are by no means the only relevant perspectives. Politics is an area that is particularly relevant to understanding power and control on organization. This will come up in later chapter of this subject guide. From the natural sciences, biology offers a view of the organization as a functioning system and the idea of survival of the fittest, wherein the healthiest businesses will survive in competitive environment. As you will see in chapter 4, mathematics in particular has offered models and aids for decision making for providing statistical information to managers. In the earlier days of the subject, engineering had a major role to play. A good example of this is the contribution that Frederick Taylor made to the idea of scientific management. The sciences in general have contributed also to the types of research and methodology used to study organization. You will see in your next reading, Mullins page 2 to 10, just how varied understanding of organization can be. For example, the use of different imaginative metaphors for organization show just how many ways writers have conceptualized organizations. For example, a brain, a machine, or psychic person. The reading also discusses how as individuals we differ in our view of the importance of organizational life at work versus our non-working life. To some people, commitment to the organization they work for is central to their lives. To others, it is being part of a group at work that is important, and for others, work and the organization are merely a means to an end. As student and potential managers, you need to be able to recognize your own current perspectives and to be able with how the different perspectives can be broadened and deepen your understanding of the business organization. Activity 2.2 Reading. What are your current perspective on about organization? Begin by reading the following section of your main K-text. Mullins 2010, Chapter 1, The Nature of Organizational Behavior. Page 2 to 10. Number 1. How we view the world of work will influence what discipline we prefer to use to understand business. Use the classification in this reading to identify your own orientation to work. Also look at the orientation mentioned on section 3.7 in the subject guide. These are discussed in the work by Goldthorpe et al. Number 2. Which of the Morgan's metaphors do you favor to describe an organization? What disciplines do you think have influenced the different organizational metaphors mentioned in the reading? 2.2 Sociological perspective. Psychology is concerned with the study of human society, its origin, how it is organized, and how people interact. The definition and boundaries of the discipline are contested, and this is such a wide-ranging subject that many psychologists specialize in the study of a particular area of social life. As part of your studies, you may complete course 21 Principles of Psychology. The main ways in which psychology informs us about business and management are to help explain how people interact at work, the effects of different organizational structures on the people. Psychology can particularly contribute to our understanding of social relations within the organizations, such as the interaction of employees, power relation, and social groupings. The way in which business and management have impact on wider society, psychologists view organizations as social construct, i.e., they exist because of the efforts of people and because people decide to recognize that they exist. An organization is seen as being made up of many different elements working together and interacting. It is not viewed as an object that has solid outline. The psychological approach stresses definition of an organization as a social entity and one that does not exist in isolation but is continually interacting with environment. The classical theories of psychology are concerned with understanding that the organization of social life, chains, and significant institutions. Max Weber, 1864–1920, was one of the founders of modern psychology. We have already read about him in Chapter 1. He studied government organization in Europe and helped us to understand how administrative structures, hierarchies, and authorities could improve the efficiency of organization. Psychologists are also interested in the role that organization play in society. Interaction between organization and the life of individuals and groups in the wider society is a major concern. In particular, this means understanding how changes with the wider society affect organization. This will be discussed further in Chapter 4 when we look at the organization change. Activity 2.3. Read this short section of your main K-text. Mullins, 2010, Chapter 4, Individual Differences, page 129 to 30 from the beginning of the chapter up to but not including the section of personality. Remember this when you look at the issue of organizational change examined in Chapter 4. Can you see how the strategies developed by management need to take account of wider changes in society and also the diversity of the workforce? Industrial psychology is a specialized area concerned with how work is organized, workplace conflicts, management employee relation, and especially the role of trade unions, division between work and leisure time, links between work and the importance of social class, different labor markets. Studies in the 1950s and 1960s were mainly conducted within the factory setting, hence the name industrial psychology. An example is a study which be mentioned in Chapter 3, the affluent worker industrial attitudes and behavior, carried out by the Goldthorpe et al. 1968. Goldthorpe investigate the embourgeoisement thesis. This suggests that a rise in the income levels of working class employees result in their adopting middle class values. Therefore, the class structure of society is seen to be affected by the behavior and action of business organization. More recently, Green 1995 one uses of psychological approach for management. In doing this, he questioned the accepted assumption about what management is or what manager do. He treats concepts such as leadership, control, and culture as social construct. Thus, with society changes, so does the meaning of this word. An application of psychology, gender relation at work, and specific area to which this psychological approach has made a great contribution is our understanding of gender relation within the workplace.